City Council to order on Monday, July 12th at 2021 at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeWalt?
Here.
Mr. Les?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Sidnor?
Here.
President Nicholas?
Here.
Mayor Mel?
I'm going to take the agenda out of order this evening. We have a court reporter on the meeting tonight. Agenda item number 7, third public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1973, map amendment number 914, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland to approve map amendment number 914 for rezoning from R5 zone to RT zone. The properties known as 7222 and 7302 Conti Road, Laurel, Maryland, 20707, submitted by Reberba Development LLC and providing an effective date. I've read the title into the record for the third reading. Before I open the public hearing, I need to read the following statement. While this is the third public hearing regarding map amendment number 914, ordinance number 1973, if any party has already testified in either or both of the prior two public hearings on this amendment application, there is no need to testify again. The testimony and evidence given in each of the prior two hearings, as well as this hearing, will be included in the record of this case. For that reason, we ask that you please limit any testimony matters that have not been testified to previously. Mr. Love, do you have any updates?
I do not have any updates. I have not heard anything from anybody in the community on this. Staff sticks with their original recommendation. I know Mr. DeVito, who is representing the applicant, is on the line, and I believe he does have an update regarding conversations that they've had with the Islamic Community Center since the previous meeting, Madam President.
Okay.
Mr. DeVito?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Madam Chair, is it okay that I begin now, or do you want me to wait?
Oh, you can proceed.
Thank you. Again, this is Eric DeVito. I am the attorney representing Ribera Development, the applicant on the map amendment. I presented at the last hearing after the Planning Commission approval and went through a series of legal justifications, which I will not reiterate here. The purpose of tonight's, the portion that I'm going to be speaking on tonight, is to refer back to the last council hearing when the meeting was postponed in order to give time for Ribera Development to meet with representatives of ICCL, the mosque building next door to the Janoski property, in order to discuss certain accommodations that Ribera might be able to make in order to gain the ICCL's support for this rezoning application. I can report that a week ago this past Friday, Ribera representatives and ICCL went through a number of issues. It was a very positive meeting in my opinion, and I think others would agree. Basically, there were 4 points that were discussed. Requests from ICCL with regard to the Janoski property. What I have done is I submitted to Mr. Love a letter that I would like to submit as part of my formal public testimony for the record that summarizes those 4 points of discussion. Actually, there were only 3 items in the letter, but item 2 took care of 2 of the items. So technically the letter was only 3 items, but there were 4 that were discussed. I will mention them briefly here. And basically what Ribera agreed to do is certain site modifications in order to address ICCL's concerns and garner their support for this rezoning application. The first item was with regard to the access point for the Janoski property townhouses. Ribera agreed that it would move the entrance as far, I guess, to the northwest as possible, so there was direct access onto Old Conti Road and not onto the service road. And if the city approves of relocating or locating the entrance in that spot, Ribera has agreed to put it there. Again, it's subject to the city planning review and approval, but Ribera has agreed that it would locate the entrance as to the farthest part or farther away from the ICCL property. The second item was to create a larger buffer from some of the townhouse units to where the mosque building is located. So Ribera agreed to shift its townhouses at least 20 more feet away from the mosque building, plus another 20 feet of landscape wooded buffer that would stay in its existing dense treed state. The only caveat there is obviously, again, subject to city planning, and if the city requires that certain stormwater management or other infrastructure needs would require some of those trees to be taken down, then Ribera has agreed to replant them in a similar dense fashion, again, to provide additional dense buffer to the mosque building, plus shifting the townhouses farther away. So that would be items 2 and 3. And then the fourth item would be to include a notice to the purchasers of townhomes on the Janoski property, informing them of the existence of the mosque building and the ICCL, the fact that there are frequent services held at the ICCL property, that there's a potential expansion of the ICCL property. It was all language that was provided to us by ICCL representatives, and Ribera has agreed that it would include the language that the ICCL representatives requested as notices to prospective purchasers. So those are mainly the 4 items, which, as I indicated, are documented in a letter that we submitted to the record. So it's something that can be monitored going forward. But Ribera has agreed to cooperate with ICCL in good faith, and as we've said repeatedly, just wants to be good neighbors. So I'd just like the council to be aware that those discussions happened. We, Ribera side of things, believe they were positive discussions and think we have an agreement on them. So for your information, as you hopefully vote this evening, just know that those discussions have taken place. And if there are any further questions, I'd be happy to address those now or in the future if there is future testimony that requires my response.
Thank you. Thank you for your updates. The time is 6:07 p.m. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, I understand you have a list of speakers.
Madam President, our first speaker is Mr. Abdullah Hijazi on behalf of the ICCL. Hold on one moment so that I can allow him to speak. Mr. Hijazi? Mr. Hijazi?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Abdullah Hijazi. I am here as counsel for ICCL. I'm speaking on behalf of both the chairman and president of ICCL. And we have met with the developer and his representatives, and are in support of the rezoning, conditioned on all the statements that Ribera Development put on the record being conditions of the rezoning. We do not want the rezoning to be approved by the city without those conditions to be in writing. I only have 2 clarifications to the conditions that Mr. DeVito put on the record. The first clarification is that the 40-foot wide landscape yard that is the increased yard that was promised by the developer should be in addition to any rear yard or side yard of any townhome, and should be for the entire length of the property between ICCL and the Janoski property. basically along that entire adjoining line. And we would we also requested that, yes, that the tree area be preserved as much as possible. And that signs be posted marking that area as a tree preservation area to avoid that any from cutting down any of the trees, underbrush, foliage in that area, and maintain that buffer for as long as possible. The second clarification was that in the covenants for the development, we did ask for the specific representations that ICCL is a active center with several services and expansion plans. That is correct. The only thing that I didn't hear today is that we also requested that something be placed in the covenants showing that the developer and ICCL agreed to allowing ICCL credit and use of a 20-foot wide strip of the 40-foot wide landscape yard for future ICCL development and permit applications, as ICCL's current parking lot is very close to that property line that adjoins the two properties. So we would like for that language to be included in the conditions that would be included in this approval. Again, our support for this rezoning application is conditioned on the city actually putting in writing conditions on the approval as were placed in the record today. But we definitely thank the council and for giving us more time to work with the developer, and we thank the developer for basically working with ICCL to find a solution to the rezoning or the development problems presented by the rezoning.
Thank you. Before Kim moves on to the next speaker, I forgot to mention that each speaker has 3 minutes to speak. You may proceed, Kim.
Madam President, our next speaker is Mr. Mohammed Sohail Chaudhry.
Okay.
Mr. Chaudhry.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Excellent, thanks. Thank you, Kim. Respected Mayor and members of City Council, I, along with my neighbors and residents of Conti Crossing, which is the community that I live in, it's kind of walking distance from the proposed map and the proposed development, would appreciate your consideration and time around what is a serious impact to our investments over here. And when I say our, again, myself along with our neighbors, I'm not sure who might be able to talk today or not, but some of them have definitely sent me written notes to talk on their behalf. I'll try to convey my message in a very summarized manner that we live in the single family housing community, again, walking distance away from the proposed townhouse, also the rezoning that we are here to attend. And the impact of this change will not only impact just the traffic, the strain on public resources, et cetera, but also to our investments. Not only, I would say, just to our investments. I work for Health and Human Services, FDA, which is Food and Drugs Administration, not too far from where we are in Laurel. And my colleagues were also looking forward to invest and move over here, and the proposed single-family housing dwelling or that was being proposed right next to where we live. And I can tell you that just this build out of the townhouses over here is going to impact our investments. The folks who are planning to move in this neighborhood, given that this is mainly a single family house dwelling type of a community, at least this strip of County Road. So I would humbly request to the council to consider the impact. We've already gone through some of the I would say negative equity type of an impact when County Road was expanded from where it used to be as to where it is today. I myself was was impacted in a major way, and it was a negative impact, obviously. And this rezoning will cause too big of an impact where some of us will have to really rethink whether this is the city or this is a place where we would like to reside moving forward. So a humble request for consideration over here to stop this rezoning, and we would welcome single family, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, the last speaker we have is Mr. Martin Mitchell. You hold on one moment, let me allow him. Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, hello, hello, everybody. Thank you for the time to speak today. I just wanted to say a little bit about it as a resident of Laurel. It seems that a lot of constituents have reached out and, still have some concerns about the project. So, with that being said, I think that it is in the best interest of the people to, delay this project as much as possible so we can get more community input. And at the end of the day, I know that, development is important, but I think that smart growth and smart development is important as well. And so with that being said, I do hope that we can allow the community more time to come to a consensus, because it does seem that, there's a lot of, people that are unhappy with the proposal as it stands right now. And with that being said, I thank everybody for their time.
Thank you.
Madam President, there are no other speakers listed.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:16 p.m. I'd like to entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move for the adoption of ordinance numbers 1973, map amendment 914, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland, to approve map amendment 914 for rezoning from R5 zone to RT zone. The properties known as 7222 and 7302 Conti Road, Laurel, Maryland, 20707, submitted by Reappointments Development LLC, and providing an effective date. And I'll note that this recommendation is conditioned on the applicant following through on the conditions listed in the memorandum submitted to the city. There's actually 4 conditions, but they're contained in 3 points. And I'll make one other note that this is consistent with a change in the character of the neighborhood as noted in the staff report.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Les?
Yes, let me just note, I appreciate the willingness of the ICCL and the applicant to meet and discuss the differences and resolve them. And hopefully, as we move forward for this with application and it gets built out, we can in fact provide for the needs of the ICCL and the developer. Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Smith?
I'd like to also say, before I vote, I appreciate the developer in meeting with the ICCL community. It was important to me that they met and had some conditions. And my vote is yes, with these recommendations that were submitted with them.
Mr. DeWalt?
Madam President, I'm a little confused. Mr. DeVito and the attorney for the developer and Mr. Abdullah Hijazi, the spokesman for the mosque, it didn't sound like they agreed on the same things. In this letter that was sent to Mr. Love, where is that letter? Do we have that now?
Mr. Love?
And why didn't we
I
present-
had sent it to, I just sent to Ms. Rao, and exactly what Mr. DeVito laid out is what he said was in that letter from the developer.
And when did you send that?
A couple minutes ago, I had sent it from, it was put into the record.
Because it doesn't sound like Mr. DeVito and Mr. Hijazi are on the same page. It just sounds like Mr. DeVito has proposed certain, has agreed to certain these aspects, but Mr. Hijazi hasn't done it yet. I mean, if I don't see it in writing, I'm not going to believe Mr. DeVito over Mr. Hijazi. I just can't. If it's not written on paper, how could I honestly vote on something that I can't see in front of me and I can't read? I can't do it. So I would automatically vote no based on we were not provided enough information on what was agreed to by both parties. Because without it being put into the record properly and secured in that record, Mr. DeVito doesn't have to do none of that. He could tear all them trees down. He could do anything he wants if it's not agreed to and it's not by both parties and we don't have it in front of us. This is crazy. I worked on this thing for hours to try to come up with a resolution to try to get all my facts straight. And here it's two different things that I'm hearing from the attorney for the developer and what the Islamic Center wants.
Thank you.
How do I honestly vote on something like that? And like Martin Mitchell said, we extended it for a little while. I would have to get it extended again so that I would be able to see this. And one other thing that kind of disturbed me was in this letter, it said that a lot of constituents were sending certified letters. Didn't we learn something from Patuxent Greens when they sent certified letters out to Patuxent Greens all around there before that development? And what occurred was we had all these people from Patuxent Greens coming to the meeting and saying, when I get a certified letter, I work till 7 or 8 at night. We're hardworking people. We work for long hours. That certified letter goes with all my other garbage junk mail. It goes right into the garbage. So Billy Welford from the Planning Commission said, hey, people, there's only one way in there, into that complex. Why don't we put up a big, one of them electronic signs about the date and time we're going to have a meeting? And how many people showed up at that meeting? 96 people from the community showed up at that meeting because they were properly notified. And here we are sending out certified copies again. It's in a small little sign you put on the property. It's like we don't want nobody to know what's going on with these developments. It's like secrecy. And because of all this, I can't give an honest decision. And this is absolutely preposterous and ridiculous that we can't get this, that I can't get the information when I'm a city council member. And Mr. Love, if you just sent that over, that's sad. That's very sad that I was just sent over now.
Thank you, Mr. DeWalt.
Work session started at 5:30. We could have had it by then. I can't vote on this. And if you need a vote for me, it would be no. But that's not being fair to anybody because I don't have the proper information. I got all this paperwork I have here, all this paperwork I've been reading, processing, trying to come up with a very educational, legit answer to vote either yes or no. And now we have some sort of development there, but I don't know what to do. And it's very, very.
Thank you, Mr. DeWalt.
This isn't the way politics, this isn't the way a government should be run. It's progress through people. That's our motto. And we should do progress through people. And that's the way it should be done. And we should never be kept in the dark on any item whatsoever. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes, Madam President, if I catch my vote, I want to thank the attorneys for both talking. Also, I personally talked to the majority of the members in the Conti Crossing, the Laurel Code. I'm door to door. I got a lot of information, and Mr. Muhammad is on the call tonight. It was one of the representatives of the community, Mr. Todd Ledbetter, Ms. Mona Gonzalez of the community as well. Like I said, I talked to several members. I understand the importance of this vote. I understand the importance of this thing can affect our community, but I vote no at this time. Thank you.
Madam President.
Yes.
Mayor Mo.
I'm going to concur with council. Also want to make just a couple statements. Appreciate everybody getting together. Appreciate Conti Crossing on here. This is a zoning change. This is very difficult when we talk about the responsibilities of the council. And this is one of those. There's certain requirements under the law that must be met. You have to look at those. What we are talking about is that next step when we talk about development and what will occur there through the planning commission process. I will ensure through my office that those requirements that have been put forth here, this is a court reporter is taking minutes as well. All of this information that everybody has said will be on the record and becomes part of the record. As to more time, I think I appreciate the council last meeting giving some more time. I think it worked out. These negotiations sometimes go up till the last minute. That sounds like what happened here today. I just want to make sure everybody understands one thing. When we get information at the city level, we pass it on to the city council. So I don't want anybody to think, and the insinuation is that we held any information. That information was given to us and it was passed along to you all as well. Sometimes it's in your box. Sometimes I see it sitting there forever, quite frankly. So we try to get that information out to you all as quickly as possible. That's all part of the process. And when we talk about what will be there, the buffers, all of those things will be decided at the staff level and then ultimately the commission level. And that's where that process will go. And we'll make sure, and we'll bring everybody together through my office to make sure that all those requirements are met. And we'll make sure that Laurel Crossing is part of the discussion, continuing to be part of the discussion. What council has to look at here tonight is what's been put in the record. And that's what we're doing here tonight. That's a responsibility that we hold dearly. We are one of the only municipalities in Prince George County that has our own planning and zoning authority. It takes a lot of responsibility of council members to read and go and get the information and make the appropriate decisions. So with that, Madam President, I'll concur and I'll make sure that we continue to work with all parties involved to make sure what's best for the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is report of mayor and city council. We'll call on Councilman DeWalt.
All right, I'm actually gonna go over a little bit about the Article 66B of the Maryland Annotated Code, where a developer has to prove under six sections of that code, and he has to satisfy the judgment in the criteria for this requested map amendment according to the last thing that we just voted on. There's six parts of this judgment that he has to vote, that they have to fulfill, and they have to satisfy the judgment of it. One is the availability of public facilities. This is usually not even voted on by or not even approved by WSSC until the end of when this thing is going to get approved. There's also a traffic impact study involved with that, which really throws a wrench in that availability of public facility thing. And I'll get to that in a minute. This number 2 is present and future transportation pattern. It is, and here's what you hear from, this is just straight out jargon you usually hear from the developers, and I've heard it for the last 3.5 years. It is anticipated that the proposed RT use would have minimal vehicle impact at the key intersections, and such intersections are believed to be able to accommodate such impact. It's common verbiage that developers use. We had one developer wanted to give us a stop sign, and another one wanted to give us a green arrow. But let me tell everybody that these people that do these traffic studies, they're hired and they're paid for by the developer.
So they're not going to find anything wrong with the traffic input. But let me tell you what happened with us over a year ago. Councilmember Sidnor put in a request of a traffic and a parking study to get to go on citywide in the city of Laurel because it's getting horrible out there and it's just going to get worse. Over a year ago, we never heard nothing about it, and at that time, it was going to cost us $50,000 for this traffic. I mean, it was worth it to me because at least we would get some sort of pattern, we get some sort of basis on what to do with a traffic study and at least get a basis for doing that. Well, we didn't hear nothing for a year. Councilman Sidnor reinvented it and talked.
It looks like Councilman DeWalt got disconnected. I don't know what happened. It just popped up on the screen that he left the meeting. So I know we're in the middle of a thunderstorm. Don't know what happened there. Can you all hear me? Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to move on to Councilman Signal.
Yeah, Madam President. I just got one thing just to reiterate, not reiterate, but announce that the public information session we having with the landlord and tenant information session is scheduled for July the 21st at 7 p.m. at City Hall, sponsored by the Mayor, City Council, and Community Legal Service, Prince George County. It's important to know the landlords know their rights, important the tenants know their rights as well when it comes to eviction. So we're gonna have that information session conducted once again on July the 21st at 7 p.m. at City Hall to ask all community residents to come out and also landlords come out as well. But once again, this is important information that both parties need to know before the eviction process starts. That concludes my report, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Smith.
The only thing I have to report on July 3rd, I attended along with other council members the Laurel Parade, and in the coming week, next week, I have a couple of nights reserved at the Laurel Skating Rink to connect with the community for community engagement. We have a family skate night that will be Wednesday, July 21st. Thursday night is an adult night, skate night that's for 18 and over. And on Sunday night, that is a 30 plus and over. And that's just for the community to engage. We've all been in this pandemic, and I think it's important for us to get reconnected while having fun. Sometimes put the business aside and just connect with one another. That concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilman Les.
Thank you, Madam President. A couple of things. First of all, I want to thank publicly Chrissy Cornwell and Michelle Saylor on their report on working on and the report for the ARPA. When I was at IRS before I retired, one of my ex-staff members worked on Build America bonds. If you remember those, the deal was the federal government was going to pay back the interest on issuing these bonds to municipalities and counties and states. And to this day, and here it is, I don't know, 10, 12 years later, 14 years later, they're still signing checks by hand and sending them out to meet their commitment to the men and women and the legislatures and the administrations of the United States. So I look forward to how this turns out. As was mentioned, there's been many meetings. I've attended some of those Zoom meetings just so I could understand it. My agency will be heavily involved in tracking adherence to rules. That's the IRS. And again, I look forward to us having a successful go at this so that we can spend the money for the benefit of the citizens of Laurel and report properly to the men and women of the United States. I want to mention the fourth. My wife and I and my daughter and my grandson were out there watching. We got caught in the last 5 minutes, but the fireworks were spectacular. In addition to the parade being very nice, and And then I just want to mention that, I mean, it is unbelievable how much business Cheetos is doing at that location right next to the lake. We went there and had a little late dinner, and they were jam-packed, and we left at 11:30. So again, it rolls over to the businesses when we do something like that, like the 4th of July. I want to mention two other things. First of all, I will mention that I am not in favor of cutting out all employment to those workers in Maryland and in the city who have been counting on that money to get them through the COVID. I agree with one statement that says some people won't go back to work because it's too much money, but the answer is not to cancel it. The answer is to figure out why people aren't going back to work. So I'll just mention that. And let me just, if I could, I appreciate the applicant and the developer of the Janoski's property coming together and taking the opportunity that the council gave them to discuss their differences and what they could do to resolve them. And I'll said what was said by the mayor, that everything that's been said tonight is part of the record. And it's part of what will go forward to the planning commission when they sit down to do the site and landscape plan. And there are some other additions that have got to be dealt with, and that is the entrance back onto the old Conti Road is going to require some improvements. So I'm sure the developer will have to pay for that, and it won't be unsubstantial. And again, as far as the buffer and not disturbing the buffer for stormwater management, I'm sure that Robert will pass that along to the soil and soil district, because they're going to be the ones that are going to take the first cut at any plan that is done for this property. That concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you. Mayor Mo.
Thank you, Madam President. Condolences to Darnell Butler and the Department of Communications on the loss of his grandmother. Also to Leonard Buchholz's family and friends. Mr. and Mrs. Buchholz still over on Greenhill Avenue, lost their son, Lenny Buchholz, who was a member of the Laurel Volunteer Fire Department for many years, a good friend, and was sorry to hear the news on Leonard. Did have the opportunity to attend on July 1st, the Insulator and Allied Workers Local 24, their open house ceremony and meet their membership. They will be holding a community event later on. So please look for that invitation. I want to thank Ring Kubek and the many volunteers and the city staff in particular this year who really pulled together the July 4th events that was held on the 3rd. We did get the fireworks off, and the parade was outstanding, and the flag raising. And again, just can't say enough about everybody working together to pull this off. We did do something a little different. We had our backyard barbecue visits at various residents around the city for Independence Day. First time we had done that, and just a really good time. It was the first 10 that signed up. We went and visited. On July the 10th, we had Splashdown 2021 at the pool, and nice hot day for everybody to be there. So I want to thank Department of Park and Recs for their efforts as well. The July the 26th, from 6:30 to 8, there'll be a Touch a Truck event at the Emancipation Park from 6:30 to 8, put on by the Department of Park and Recs. A good turnout. Hopefully everybody can attend. Madam President, a couple mayoral appointments or reappointments. Robert Kluckhuhn to Historical District Commission. Erin McLaughlin, Mike McLaughlin to Persons with Disabilities. Phyllis Anderson with Persons with Disability. Brent Durham with Persons with Disabilities. And Kyla Clark with Persons with Disabilities, and the Environmental Affairs Committee. I'd ask for your approval on those appointments and reappointments.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'll move that we approve all of the appointments of the mayor.
Can I get a second?
Second, Madam President.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Laz,
Yes.
Mr. Sidnor,
Yes.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
President Nicholas.
Yes,
Thank you, Madam President. That concludes my report.
thank you. Our next agenda item is general public hearing. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the city of Laurel will be holding virtual meetings. The public is asked to submit written testimony on agenda items to the Laurel City Clerk at krau, it's Kim Rao, which is KRAU at laurel.md.us by 2 p.m. on the meeting days, and to register for the Zoom meeting information. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:40 p.m. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, Madam President, we have one person signed up to speak, Mr. Chuck Hajar. Mr. Hajar,
Mr. Kajar, you have 3 minutes to speak, sir. Is
Madam,
he there?
I think you have the wrong person unmuted.
Just
Mr. Hajar,
you hear me?
yes.
Okay. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come onto this meeting. I am a Narcotics Anonymous member. I live in Laurel, and I've been going to NA meetings since 1988. I've been clean since 1988. I've been going to meetings in Laurel since about 1998. And right now we're having some issues trying to reopen some of our meetings. And I mean, I just had to put it out there, as everybody knows, there's an opiate crisis going on. People are dying left and right, and it's really hard on addicts, especially new people who can't get to a live meeting. They go to treatment and they've been on Zoom, and it's just been really difficult. And we're trying to do the best we can. Baltimore County's been opening up meetings before us. I've been going up there. We're starting to open up in Laurel, but we had 3 meetings at Laurel Hospital, and they will not let us back in there. And some of those meetings have been at that hospital since like 1985, and they're very convenient to the public. We had a good room. We had a place to put our coffee and all the stuff that we need in our books and literature. And Dr. Hall is trying to help us, but the hospital is not being very helpful. And I remember I had a problem a few years ago, and the city council talked to Dr. Hall, and she was more accommodating to our meetings. Now she's saying that as long as there's any COVID patients there, they won't let us in. And it's very difficult on us. We can't find any other places. I tried a couple of churches. They would not accommodate us. The church where most of our meetings are pretty booked up. So anyway, I'm just asking for help, because the University of Maryland said that when they took over the hospital that they were going to serve the community, and they're certainly not serving us. We had a Monday, Thursday meeting at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. and a Sunday meeting at 11 o'clock in the morning, and they won't let us back in. And we found a rear entrance where we could not even have to go through the front door of the hospital, which was where we went, which was very convenient, and they won't let us use the cafeteria with that back entrance either. So I don't know if you all can do anything, but I'm just putting it out there that we're having a difficult time. Some churches are letting us open, and some aren't, and the hospital isn't for sure. So
Thank you,
that's it.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Since there's no one else signed up to speak, we're going to close the public hearing at 6:43
Madam
p.m.
President, can I speak to Mr. Hajar for 1 minute?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hajar, how you doing, sir?
Hi.
Councilman McKeith Sidnor. I worked in probation and parole, and I worked in drug court, so I'm very familiar with individuals suffering from substance abuse disorder. And so I want the Madam Clerk to leave your number and email to me, and I'll try to work with some churches in the community to try to get a place for you guys to meet. So sorry you're going through that process. I know how important it is to support groups to meet together. So just want to stay encouraged, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President, if I could, because I don't want to use anybody, Mr. Hajar is on my call list for tomorrow. I think he spoke to some staff already. We will also be putting in a call to Dr. Hall. And there are a few churches that I've touched base with, but there's been no commitment. So I'll keep everybody posted. Keith, I'll give you a holler as well. We want to try to help. Congratulations. Keep moving forward. But we will see what we can do to help and Mr. Ajar. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is consideration of bid recommendation, Department of Public Works lead street lighting upgrade. Mr. Lee, are you on the line?
Madam President, Chrissy Fang will be
Chrissy
presenting.
Cornwell,
And Mr.
okay.
Lee's
Madam
absent.
President, can you hear me? Yes. Can
Okay,
you hear
you have the
me?
floor. This thing.
Good evening, Madam
Yes.
President. The city likes to continue to upgrade the street lights to LED with BGE, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. This phase, we want to upgrade the 65 150 watt sodium vapor post top luminaries to 150 watt equivalent LED post top 2nd Street from Laurel Avenue to Howard County line for a total of $47,255. And then the funding has been identified in the CIP Street Light Safety Enhancement Projects. We recommend the mayor and the city council approve this project, and the street light upgrade will also reduce the city's utility spending in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. This agenda item was discussed at our work session on July 7th, 2021. I'd like to entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Are you up to you, sir? Are you up to you, Councilman Last?
No, go ahead, Keith. Please.
Madam President, I make a recommendation to approve recommendation of DPW LED street lights and upgrades.
Can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Sidnor,
Yes.
Mr. Les,
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
President Nicholas.
Yes. Our next agenda item is consideration of bid recommendation, Rostan Solutions LLC, contract renewal. This agenda item was discussed at the July 7th, 2021 work session. Ms. Cornwell, you have the floor.
Thank you and good evening, Madam President, Mayor, and City Council members. Before you is a memo dated June 15th recommending the approval of the contract renewal and 4 updated tasks with Ralston Solution LLC. I just want to review some of the task orders within there that are going to be updated. One of the task orders is an increase of $35,000, which has been added to the Patuxent River Gauge task order. Ralston has been supporting this effort for the last couple of years, and I'm excited to announce that the gauges will be placed sometimes this fall to do a beta testing, and we're looking at 5 to 7 gauges. Another major accomplishment for the city of Laurel has been to lead a regional coordination and collaboration of the Patuxent River Watershed Project. As this project grew, Ralston supported the city in extensive research, meeting support, and identifying additional grant funds. An additional $25,000 has been added to this task order to continue to aid the city as we finish the last phase of this project. And they will also be assisting the city as we transition from a regional project to a state project. The last phase within the regional project is to finalize the Patuxent River technical study, which is slated to be completed in mid-August. Ralston has also been assisting us with the management of a flood mitigation assistance grant, which is an additional $25,000 to this task order, which will allow us the opportunity for Ralston to continue the management of the grant. This grant will allow us to examine the recommendations of the Patuxent River technical study and begin any preliminary work towards those recommendations. And the last task order is an increase of $15,000, which allows Ralston to provide the city with grant resource writing, report requirements for any grant management, and assisting in public assistance for COVID-19. And for the record, I just wanted to clarify, Councilman Sindor asked me last week about the time frame for the grant. And he was absolutely correct when he said it was a 3-year performance grant. So this grant did go in effect in July of 2019. And if approved, it would be expired in June of 2022. And it is updated every year. So I respectfully requested the council approve and renew this contract, continue with the task orders, and I'd be glad to take any questions.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Signor, did you have a question?
No question. I was going to make a recommendation to approve the consideration of the Ralston Solution LLC contract renewal. And thank you, Ms. Cromwell, for correcting the record as well. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Sidnor,
Yes.
Mr. Les,
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
President Nicholas.
Yes. Our next agenda item is introduction and first public hearing on ordinance number 1978, map amendment number 915, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland, to approve map amendment number 915 to change the use from the office to a mix of residential and commercial for property known as 14504 Greenview Drive, Laurel, Maryland, 20708, submitted by BE2 and 10GL LLC and DB Lakeview LLC, and providing an effective date. I've read the title into the record for the first reading. This item was discussed at the July 7th, 2021 work session. Mr. Love, you have the floor.
Thank you and good evening, Madam President, Mayor, and City Council members. Per ordinance number 1978, the applicant is seeking a code amendment to change the current use of the property located at 14504 Greenview Drive from an office to a mix of residential and commercial use. The applicant is proposing to develop the current office building into 185 apartment units and first floor retail of approximately 6,000 square feet. The proposed project will need to provide a minimum of 12% affordable housing via moderately priced, workforce price, and age-restricted units. Following conditions would apply. The applicant shall apply for and obtain amended site landscape plan approval from the City of Laurel Planning Commission. City staff is still reviewing the traffic and parking analysis submitted by the applicant, working with them on making updates and clarification. The applicant and their team are on the call and available for questions.
Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:53 p.m. Madam Clerk, is there anyone else signed up to speak?
There's nobody signed up to speak on this item.
I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:53 p.m. Second public hearing with possible action will be at the next mayor and city council meeting on Monday, July 26, 2021 at 6 p.m. Our next agenda item is introduction and first public hearing on ordinance number 1980, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland, repealing and reenacting with amendments chapter 18, building and building regulations of the Laurel City Code, article 1 through 13, renumbering sections and providing an effective date. This item was at the July 7th, 2021 work session. Mr. Allen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor, and City Council members. No change from the work session. Again, I respectfully request concurrence with ordinance number 1980. Basically, 99.9% of the changes was formatting changes and changing the title of the Office of Emergency Management to its official charter title, which is Department of the fire marshal and permit services, with some other minor changes. Again, nothing different from the work session. I'm here for any questions, Madam President.
Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:54 PM. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
Madam President, there's nobody signed up to speak on this item.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:24 PM. Second public hearing with possible action will be at the next mayor and city council meeting on Monday, July 26, 2021 at 6 PM. Our next agenda item is introduction and first public hearing on ordinance number 1981, an ordinance to amend the general operating budget and capital improvement program of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland for fiscal year July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. This ordinance was discussed at a special work session before us this evening at 5:30 PM. Ms. Saylor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor Mo, and council members. This Fifth Amendment to our 2021 fiscal year operating budget and CIP provides an increase of $1,307,432 to the operating budget and $983,830 to the CIP. We have experienced some unanticipated revenues and some expenditures, savings, and we are reallocating those funds to provide an additional contribution to the pension fund as well as cash funding of various CIP projects. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:56 PM. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
Madam President, there's nobody signed up to speak on this item.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:56 PM. A second public hearing with possible action is scheduled for the next mayor and city council meeting on Monday, July 26, 2021 at 6 PM. Our next agenda item is introduction and first public hearing on resolution number 7-21, a resolution of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland, entitled City of Laurel Naming Policy for Parks, Recreational Facilities, City-Owned Buildings, Streets, Alleyways, and Other City Assets. This ordinance was discussed at the July 7th work session. Mayor Mo, you have the floor.
No other items to report unless anybody has any questions. We have not received any information back from any of the council for any changes. So administration is fine with the policy if council wishes to move forward with it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:57 PM. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
Madam President, there's nobody signed up to speak on this item.
I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:58 PM. Second public hearing with possible action will be at the next mayor and city council meeting on Monday, July 26, 2021 at 6 PM. If there is no further business to come before the mayor and city council meeting this evening, this meeting is adjourned. Everyone have a good evening.